This week, we'll talk about the honors course that explores compelling leaders and what they can teach us about leadership through literature and film. All that and more coming up next. Hey, Honorsfuls! Welcome to the Honor Roll Podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I'm your host, Fabiana Requena, a third-year student studying marketing and business analytics at the University of South Florida and a member of the Honors College. Today, my co-host is Caroline Merriman, a fourth-year student studying English and biology. It's great to have you on the podcast, Caroline.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, as always, Caroline, we like to start off the podcast with one big question. So my question this week is, what makes a good leader?
I think just from my personal experience, just in workplaces and in different clubs, I think good leaders are people who listen, especially to the people around them, people they work with, people that work under them. I think as being the person in charge, it's hard to know what's really going on within your organization. And so I think being open-minded and being willing to take criticism and feedback and to accept that maybe things aren't going well and to fix that for the people that work with you, I think is really important as a leader.
I definitely agree with that. And also kind of making yourself on the same playing field as them. So not thinking of yourself as more than someone, even if you have a fancy title. Being able to be truthful with others if something's not going right. Being able to just sit down and have normal conversations just as you would with anyone else. And actually this week, we're sitting down with honors students Jenna Epright and Daniel Anderson, as well as honors professor Deepak Singh, to discuss how writers and directors create powerful narratives via confrontation, power, and ethics. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Lacey Pinnell. I am a fifth-year senior, and I'm an industrial engineering student. So my favorite honors experience has really been my Puerto Rico trip. It was a service trip through the Honors College. So we essentially went out to El Yunque, and we cleaned up some trails. It made it easier for tourists to actually explore on the rocks. And we also went to a coffee bean farm that was family owned, and we were able to kind of clear up the vines and ensure that those coffee beans could survive, and the family was very lovely. And then finally, right before we left, we cleaned up a beach, and we cleaned up a lot of trash and just made sure that the locals were able to experience the beach without all of the effects of tourism that were happening. So that was a really good experience in my opinion.
All right, Professor Singh, welcome back to the podcast. We are also here with your students, Jenna Epright and Daniel Anderson. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
So my name is Deepak Singh, and I am a writer and a teacher. I teach at Honors. I've been teaching here for 5 years now. I'm originally from India, and I was a journalist for BBC World Service back in India, but my first degree was an MBA, and I worked in corporate for a little while, and then I moved to America about 21 years ago. And I've been writing and doing radio stories and teaching.
Hi, my name's Jenna Epright. I'm a third-year political science student graduating in the fall. And I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I reside in Orlando and go to school here in Tampa. And I'm very involved on campus. I'm an official USF ambassador and a part of the Dean Student Leadership Society. I'm going to be president this upcoming semester. And yeah, I love USF and I love the Honors College.
Hey guys, my name is Daniel Anderson. I'm a junior at USF, doing a double major in finance and econometrics, and I'm originally from Kingston, Jamaica. So yeah, excited to be here.
Great. Well, it's so nice to have you all here. So to start off, we'd like to give a little brief description of your course, Exploring Leadership Through Literature and Film, which you taught this semester.
Yes, this course is about, as the name suggests, we are looking at leadership styles and motivations of different characters in stories and films, and we look for how they act in different situations and what motivates them and what becomes a hurdle for them in their path to what they want. And this class meets once a week, and we watch the film or read the story in class and then talk about it and discuss. And there are 17 students, and they bring different perspectives, different backgrounds, and different ideas and opinions, and we try to figure out and see which character can be more relatable to a different student and how they see themselves and compare themselves with that character.
It's a really like unconventional sounding course, like kind of marrying leadership with like literature and film. Jen and Daniel, what drew you to the class?
So I always personally enjoyed watching films. I'm not gonna lie, I was not too much into the literature as I used to be. So that kind of attracted me, that aspect of it, and I guess looking at it from a different perspective. I thought it'd be interesting, like joining again and trying to get more back into that headspace. Reading is always helpful. So that's what initially drew me to the class.
Yeah, I'd agree. I love watching films. I have a minor in film and new media studies, so when I was looking at different capstone courses, I thought like this one would be great for something I'm interested in. And as someone who is involved a lot in leadership settings, I thought this would be a great chance for me to learn and to grow as well as a leader.
Now, Professor Singh, what inspired you to develop this course?
So I have a degree in business from India, business MBA, and I did work in corporate sector for a while, and I came here and also worked in sales. But I was also working as a journalist, and I wrote quite a bit. And I was more interested in literature, reading stories, by Joseph Conrad or um, Anton Chekhov, and I found more leadership lessons from the literature than my MBA class. And I thought maybe one day I can combine the two, as you said, like marry the two, and see what happens, and maybe students can learn something from literature and films, and which a normal MBA class might not teach regularly. This normal MBA classes are usually, what I learned was about how to maximize the profit, go for it, and be a strong leader, look strong, and but literature offers you a more human side of it, and then you realize, what's going on inside the characters, what are they struggling with, what are they torn about, and that's what we look at in class, and then realize, it's maybe we can, if you look at the characters, maybe we can learn something from them.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you're kind of taking this like humanities approach to like methods of thinking such as like business with the MBA, where like you're taught a lot of those like hard skills, but you're not taught like the soft skills to apply them, or how to be a leader, or how to be a good human. And I don't think we think a lot to like look into literature to find that. And some of our greatest minds and our greatest philosophers have been people who channeled that thinking into like characters in literature. And so I think it's really cool that students are getting to approach it from that aspect. I am curious to ask, like, what is the course structure like? What are students like working on? What do those deliverables look like?
Yeah, so I alternate between a story and a film, and there are 14 classes together because they're 3-hour classes. So there are 17 students. We meet once a week, and we either read a story or watch a film, and then we sit down together and discuss things. So they submit a paragraph-long discussion post after the story, after the class, and they have to write 2 response papers, which is 5 to 7 pages long, and they write about the character or a leader or failed leader or successful leader, whatever they think was relatable, and then they bring in their own perspectives. And there's 2 papers, 5 pages each, during the course of the semester.
So, Jenna and Daniel, what has been your experience so far throughout the class, and can you tell us a little bit about the works that you've been involved with?
Yeah, I'd say it's very discussion based, which is something that I enjoy. I enjoy hearing others' perspectives. Like Professor Singh mentioned, there's a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds in the class. So everyone has a different perspective. And I guess you start to realize like leaders come in all different shapes and sizes. Not everyone's leadership style is the same. And the class really lets us focus on what makes an effective leader and what doesn't make an effective leader. So it's just interesting to hear all different perspectives and get that input. And then, like Professor said, at the end of class, we have a discussion post and paper due during the semester. And just reflecting on that more gives us a little more perspective and even teaches us lessons that we can bring into our lives as a leader every day, whatever shape or form that may be.
Yeah, I agree with Daniel and what he was saying about how our discussions are really interesting because we're all so different. There isn't really a cookie cutter type of person in the class. Everyone has such unique perspectives, and that's what makes like our discussions really interesting, is because someone will mention something about a character and you're like, I didn't even think of it that way. And with all the with all of the different characters and stories and films that we've watched and read so far, it's really interesting because a lot of them you don't think have a leadership in them, and you pay attention through the readings and you're like, wow, like every story you encounter has some sort of like leadership lesson you can learn from it.
Yeah, I'd say as well that Professor frames it in a way where there's no wrong answers. So I feel like everyone is not afraid to speak and share their thoughts, and it provides a really nice environment to be in.
I think that having the opportunity to have like a kind of seminar in the class and be able to discuss with all of your classmates can really open your mind to thinking of things in new ways. And you oftentimes come out thinking like, oh, I would have never thought of that if they hadn't said that. So I think that's a really great method of teaching and learning. Can you share some of the works that you've been working with in class, like films or movies that you've really enjoyed?
So yesterday we read a really interesting short story about, it was the people who walk away
The ones who
from
walk away from Omelas.
the ones who walk away from Omelas. And it was such a great story to like, because it comes off like really happy and like you see more of like a darker side of it, but it really displays a lot about leadership as well and turning a blind eye to certain things that you shouldn't. And other stories and films as well, such as last week we watched The Great Gatsby. And as much as I love The Great Gatsby, I never really looked really closely at it and as Gatsby as a person. So it's really fun in this class getting to encounter stuff that you've read or watched before and looking at it through a different perspective and maybe not necessarily agreeing with the characters that you might have liked or the stories you might have liked.
Yeah, as an English student, I've studied both of those texts and courses and never even thought to like consider those characters as leaders, especially with like the ones who walk away from Omela. So it's cool to see like that you're doing this really unique character study and that it's really applicable to like real life. Kind of as we mentioned, the course combines like a unique selection of like text and films. Professor Singh, what was your like thought process behind choosing the specific works that you have in the class?
Well, all of these, let me start with Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart and Bicycle Thieves by Italian director Del Sica, and as she said, Great Gatsby, and also Death of Salesman by Arthur Miller. So all these people are driven by some kind of something that is driving them. They are aspiring to become something. Like in Great Gatsby, Jay Gatz wants Daisy, and he's going nuts after it. He's creating all this wealth just to get her, but he's losing sight of what is more important. He doesn't have the self-awareness, or like how crazy do you have to be to get this person, and then you're destroying everything else around you. In Death of a Salesman, Willie Loman has his own problem. He wants people to like him, but at the same time he doesn't realize he has some skills that are like using his hands to create a cement porch, but he wants to be the most successful salesman. So, and in Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, this guy Okonkwo is he's all about masculinity. He wants to be the strongest man, and he's scared of being looked at as weak. So he kills his own adopted son to appear strong. So in class, like Daniel and Jenna and so many students, they talk about what are these things. What does this mean to be a masculine man? What does it mean to be success? What is success? And like she mentioned, ones who walk away, the ones who walk from malice. And as a leader, what do you stand for? If there are injustices happening around you, do you still like turn a blind eye? Do you not look and say like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep maximizing my profit. I don't care who's dying, who's suffering. So I thought these are very thought-provoking stories, and I sat down and handpicked all of these stories and decided like this is what I'm going to bring to class. And maybe one day when a lot of them already have done some kind of leadership roles in some capacity, so they can also reflect on their own styles and see like maybe I was Willie Loman at some point, maybe I was Okonkwo, maybe I was Jay Gatz. So, and it might not hit them immediately, but after they've graduated, after a year or two, it comes back to them. It's like, maybe I should think more. So that's how.
I think that really leads me to my next question, which is, and all of you can answer this, but how do these stories and these fictional characters really transfer into students' real life practice of leadership? What have you learned from these stories and these characters about being a good leader or being a bad leader?
I think that you can take a lot of lessons from any experience or any story that you read. And you don't necessarily have to like live through those experiences to get a lesson from it. I'd say that the stories that we look at in class, we see both sides. Like we see the sides of a good leader, we see good qualities, things that are positive and help as a leader, and things that do the opposite. And I feel like for us personally, we can take things from each side and improve in our lives on how we go about being a leader.
Yeah, I agree with what Daniel was saying, how oftentimes, like, it's not like every single character we see is necessarily a good leader. And seeing these approaches of different, like, leadership styles that we maybe don't want to inhabit ourselves. One of the big ones I think I learned a lot from this class so far is that leadership is so much more than just a single individual. It takes a village to be a leader, and oftentimes, like, it's like a group of leaders. It's not necessarily one person leading the charge. It takes so many people, and this class really shined a light on that for me.
Yeah. Also, going off of that, I'd say that we really see how different leadership styles are effective in different situations. So sometimes you need that firm leader who almost comes across as emotionless in a specific time, or sometimes you need the leader who is compassionate, who's caring. Um, there's many different styles and many different forms of leadership, and I think that this class emphasizes that, and we can bring all of those lessons into our own lives each day.
Are you able to recognize a leadership style that you would like to implement into your life?
Yeah, I'd definitely say I feel like I want to say I try to take from all the different styles that we've learned, because like I said, I feel like different leadership styles are effective in different situations. So sometimes, you look at Death of a Salesman, and he might not have been the best leader per se, but he had some qualities of a leader that you'd want to have as well. So he was kind of driven by delusion, but at the same time, he was very driven. That's something you can't take away from him. He cared about his family a lot. Like you can tell from his actions, though he didn't carry it about in the best way, I'd say. He still has qualities that you look at and you say, wow, that's something that if I was like looking at a leader, that's something I'd want to see in them as well. So yeah, I think from every story, especially reflecting upon it and having discussions in class and bouncing off of each other, we get to see like what specifically we want to bring into our lives and what specifically would help us in our day-to-day lives in whatever role that may be.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you see both like how to be a good leader, but also like how to be a bad leader, and to have like both of those examples side by side. Um, do you guys was there a certain text or a certain time in class that was like challenging or unexpected? Were you having to like confront things, from your discussions, or was there things that were hard to wrap your head around? What was that like?
I would definitely say the one that we just did in our class the other day, that I mentioned, the ones who walk away from Omelas. It's a very moving text. It deals with a lot of unsettling themes, and it really makes you think not just about like the political state of the book, but of the political state of our world, since it's so similar. And I think that's what I really like about this class is it's not a class where you just like watch a movie and you like write a post about it. You're genuinely connecting with what you're reading and what you're watching, and trying to see how you can become like a better leader and a better person because of that.
Yeah, I'd say a text that we read that stood out to me was the Paper Menagerie, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
By Ken Liu.
By Ken Liu. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, that text really stood out to me. It was honestly a sad story in the end, It started out talking about a child who was an immigrant, and he was bullied growing up. He had an American father and a Chinese mother, and the Chinese mother didn't speak much English. So he grew up in that environment, and he went to school in America, and he was bullied for the way he looked being mixed, and he was bullied for his Chinese culture, like that side of him. And it in his father never really helped either, with helping him embrace that side of his culture and embrace that side of who he is. So he ended up growing up to resent that side of his family and even resenting his mother. And it even got to the point where on his mother's deathbed, like he didn't even really want to be there. And you kind of saw how like his environment and everything, that situation drove him to get to that point. And you see like, you wonder like who is the leader in this situation. The father, in my opinion, or from my upbringing, is the leader of the household normally. So I look at him first to see like what went wrong in his family dynamic. You see where he is ignorant of like how his son treats his mother, or like ignorant of his mother's feelings, or disregards that side, and almost in a sense disrespects her, and it passes down to the son, who starts to disrespect his mother as well. His father continues to allow that, and then the resentment just grows into what it becomes at the end, with the sad ending. So I think looking at that story specifically kind of moved me, coming from, a different culture, coming from a different background, and having almost experienced some of those things myself, but having different leaders in front of me who taught me to embrace my culture gave me a whole different story. You know what I mean? So
Hi, my name is Caitlin Pachorik. I am a third year at USF, and I'm pursuing concurrent degrees in environmental science and policy and professional and technical communication. To me, being an honor student means being open-minded and being very interdisciplinary. I feel like it's super important to be open-minded to different perspectives, people who have had different experiences as you and know different things than you do, and being open to transforming your own knowledge and listening to other people's perspectives. It's also really important to be involved and passionate about making changes in your community through your experiences. Go Bulls!
Now, Professor Singh, now that we've heard a lot about the student's perspective from the course, I want to turn it back to you on your teaching styles and the way that you lead a class in kind of an unconventional way.
As I said, I don't really lead a class. I come into class and I play a movie, or give them a story to read, and then we sit down. I don't like to create this professor and student kind of hierarchy. So I try to say that I know no more than they know. So we are equal, and we sit down and discuss. And every time, every single class, I'm surprised by something one of the students said, which I didn't know, which I never thought of. So it's pretty simple. It's like a group of people who come together once a week, sit down and talk and discuss. Like Jenna and Daniel said, they bring their own perceptions and perspectives, and we have a lot of fun. And in the end, I mean, it's I look forward to coming to class every day. I think I have a very good attendance. It's like almost 95%. Everybody shows up and they want to be there because it's fun. I think so. I hope so. And what else? I mean, I also go off of suppose if he said something, and then I try to find a question from what he said, or what Jenna said, or what other students said, and then there are students who bring their own perspectives, like own life experiences. Like one of the students, who's also Jenna's friend, Sophia, she mentioned something about her volleyball coach, and how he was too demanding, but which was not healthy. But she thought it was good because that's what the players needed in that moment. So, and one of the other students, Arun, he said he was a medical tech guy, and he related himself with the unnamed character in Joseph Conrad's The Secret Sharer, because he was not sure of him being the leader, and he also saw him as like being weak or not knowing enough, but he didn't want to show that. But slowly, and staying in that moment, staying in that role, slowly took time, but he became a leader. So, and I like that, because I would not know otherwise. going into class, like who has done what, who has fought what battles, and that's what makes this class interesting to me.
Yeah, I think having that like close relationship between the professor and the students, like it encourages students to be like, okay, I have some say in the classroom, like what I say matters. And then you do kind of like naturally facilitate like personal narratives that kind of enrich whatever you're studying. I did want to ask, since you are, so close with these students and you get to meet with them every week over the semester, how have you seen, either individually or as a group, how the students evolve over the course of the semester?
Evolved, I think they have become more comfortable saying what they want to. Initially, they weren't not sure, like what this class is about, and but slowly, as every week progressed, they have become more vocal. They bring their own. They're very. Sometimes they bring very personal narratives about that they might not share otherwise, and that tells me that they are becoming bolder and bolder, and accepting of who they are, and being aware of where they come from. And my class is full of students from like diverse background, diverse countries. One is from Uzbekistan, one is from Vietnam, he's from Jamaica and Iran, and all kinds of, and they have like very diverse, very different kind of life experiences, and they have become, I've got one more class left, become very, very bold and very close to each other, and seems like a small, like a friendly group, almost like a family, if I can say that. So that's how it's evolved, from being just a bunch of students to people who can like disagree with you without hurting your feelings.
It sounds like, here at USF, we have a really diverse student population, a lot of international students, and really just people whose parents grew up in different places. I think that really helps in this class because in different cultures, there are different leadership styles. At home, everybody has like a different way of thinking about this. So I think it's really the perfect place and environment to have these discussions. And here at the Honors College, I feel like, at least in my experience, when I sit down in class, like I don't feel afraid to like speak my mind. I don't feel like I'm going to be judged by like my classmates. I feel like everybody's pretty like forward thinking and open to hearing your perspectives. So I think it's a perfect environment for that. It also sounds like this course provides not just an academic exploration of leadership, but also a personal journey for students to be able to learn things about yourself. Can you share a moment from the course that stood out to you as particularly impactful?
So I'd say that throughout the class, you start to realize like, oh, you don't necessarily have to be the president of this club or um, leading these group of people in a certain way or have the name or have the title to be considered a leader in your life. Like looking at all the different stories, we can see like leaders come in, I keep saying many shapes and forms, but even like sometimes we looked at a story, the bicycle thief, and I think as a class we kind of came to the idea that the son was a true leader in the story. The son was a true leader for his father, for his mother. Like he was the one that was influencing them. And I think that like in our day-to-day lives, like you might not think that you're a leader, but if you really look at like the people that you influence, like you are a leader to them. You become a leader in a sense. Like people look at your actions, people all around you look at your actions and are influenced by them. And in a sense, that makes you a leader, whether you want to accept those responsibilities or not. Like your decisions, your actions have an effect on the people around you. And in a sense, like that leads them to do different things, leads them to take different actions. So personally, like looking at different stories, like I said, the one that stood out to me was a Paper Menagerie. Sorry.
Menagerie.
Menagerie. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, that story really stood out to me. But as a whole, I think just seeing that you don't necessarily have to have the title of the leader to be a leader in situations. Like, so you should always be responsible for your actions. You should always be responsible for how you handle yourself, because that has an effect on other people and in a sense makes you a leader.
Yeah, I would say that one of the most impactful things I think I've gotten out of this course is that it's not wrong as a leader to show emotion. I think a lot of the times growing up and just throughout society, it's very like a leader has to be very straight-faced, straightforward, never really show emotion. And this class, a lot of the themes revolve around grief and sorrow, and just like it can get really serious in class sometimes, but I think it's important because it's really helped me to realize to lead with empathy. Like, it's okay to show that like I'm upset or show that like something's bothering me. Like the novel we read, Things Fall Apart, how not showing emotion can lead you to be in even worse situations. And I think as a leader now and learning from this class that it's okay to get a little worked up sometimes, and that like you should feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah, I like that you guys have taken away like your own unique kind of thing from the class that's really personal to yourself and to your life experience. It's kind of those things that like no one really teaches you, and like in society we're told like, oh, this is what a leader looks like, and really that's, you know, often quite the opposite of what makes a good leader, or an empathetic leader, or a leader that people can approach and actually, you know, go to with issues. From your perspective, Professor Singh, why do you think it's important that students are studying things like leadership?
Well, I mean, if you see what's going on in the world right now, we need leaders who can be okay with being vulnerable. Because if you're not vulnerable, then you also not paying attention or being disrespectful to other people who are vulnerable. So you can only understand and empathize, as Jenna said. So leaders, and as Daniel said, you don't have to have a big title, the president, the director, and you like, oh, this is the leader. But leaders can come in any shape, and they can be found in the most unexpected places. One of the stories, Boule de Suif, by Guy de Maupassant, was a prostitute who was mocked the entire time, but she is the one who turned out to be the leader. And if you read the story, you might not think of her as a leader, but she was. She led the whole team, and she got them out. And I don't want to go into the entire story, but so why do students need to learn something like this? Is because it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be not the most muscled guy. It's okay to be a little bit weak sometimes. But you can still lead. You can still inspire people. You can still make change and bring a little bit of happiness in people's lives.
I wanted to end off by asking Jenna and Daniel what advice you'd give to students considering this course, or any course really that Professor Singh teaches.
I would say to just take the course. Obviously, I didn't know too much about Professor Singh before taking his course, but as we wrap up the semester, I'd say I'm so glad I took his course. I learned so much. Every class was entertaining. I know seeing a almost 3-hour long class can be a little discouraging for people, but it goes by so fast. It's always a really great time. You learn so much, and if you see one of his classes available, just take it. It's always a good time.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'd always say if you see Professor Singh's name by a course, like you can just go for it. Like it'll be a great time. You have a good time. He's a very compassionate guy. He's a very understanding teacher.
Thank
I
you,
think
guys.
he genuinely cares for his students. So, when I was looking for a capstone class to take, like, I did the usual thing all the USF students do, but I might not admit, went on, rate my professor, looked up the course, tried to find as much as I can. But yeah, I have to say I'm really glad I took his course, and I'm really glad I went with Professor Singh.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's all the time we have today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to hear all about your experiences in this class, the importance of literature and leadership.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're back in the studio. Fabi, what'd you think of the podcast?
I thought we had an excellent discussion. I really love the student perspective and just talking about how like the different cultures in the classroom can really bring forth a lot of meaningful discussions and new narratives that we might not see through our own lens.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that like you can learn how to be a leader in really unconventional ways. It can be in the classroom. It can be from just like talking to other students and hearing about their lives. It can be from volunteering. There's just like so many ways to become a better person. I think this class shows that.
I completely agree with you, Caroline, and if you're interested in taking a course like Professor Singh's, make sure to check out the honors website at usf.edu/honors, and don't forget to check the honor roll for all upcoming events, updates, and news. That'll do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Sandra Napolitano. Thank you all so much for listening, and please do not forget to rate and review our podcast, as we really appreciate your feedback. Please join us next week to hear what we're up to at the Judy Genshaft Honors College.
Until next time, go Bulls!